Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Today is, let's see here, Monday, November the 8th, 2021, and we have quite a bit of news to cover for all of you today. And I would like to apologize, folks, if I seem a little bit irritated. I probably don't, but if I move through the first couple points of the news today a little bit more quicker than you'd expect or like, because I just spent the last hour and a half recording, and it seems like that my software was not recording. There was some type of glitch. I'm not sure specifically what occurred here in this particular case, but anyways, let's jump right into it. So first off, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way with the Travis Scott concert. There's a lot that I want to comment on that I can't, simply because I'm still assembling my notes with respects to an upcoming members episode pertaining to this, and also because of YouTube. Now, people are suing Travis Scott at this point in time, and it's only been, I think, 48 hours, if that, since the event occurred. And for those that don't know, 8 people have been declared dead, and hundreds of others went into cardiac arrest. The Texas police there had also claimed that the security guards at the festival were also being injected with needles and what have you. Now, again, some people claim that far more others died, and there were some very strange occult type rituals, sounds and things occurring. I like to think I've heard and read everything that there is on it, even though things are coming out by the minute pertaining to that, which is why I don't want to speculate on it officially. Again, it was a catastrophe. It was a disaster. Innocent people died, and some say, was this some type of mass consciousness diversion? Was this some type of ritual sacrifice? Again, because of YouTube, I have to be careful, but at the same time, I don't like to comment until the dust has sort of settled, if you will. So take that as you will. The next thing is that a foreign hacking campaign has targeted U.S. defense contractors. 9 organizations were breached, according to CNN. I expect this, tit for tat. This is a chess game with us, with the West, with Europe, proxy countries. This is the fourth turning, as they call it, the fourth revolution, whatever you want to call it. This is the new form of warfare. This is another angle of it. So I expect this to keep going. The next thing is that Elon Musk's response to Senate Finance Chair and Democrat Senator Ron Wyden for his comment on the billionaire's recent Twitter poll was, quote, "Why does your PP look like you just came?" End quote. Elon Musk tweeted this to Senator Ron Wyden, referring to PP not meaning his penis but his profile picture. But when he said, "Why does your profile picture look like you just came?" refers to orgasming, and it's because the senator made a tweet that I essentially was, I think, trashing Elon, if you will. Some speculate that again he's selling his shares and making this publicity stunt because he's about to face a $15 billion back tax or something like this. Again, it's hard to say. We all know that there's a lot of he's now been brought into the circle of the elites, if you want to call it. So any events like this, we now have to question and be skeptical of, if you want my opinion. So the next thing is that U.S. researchers investigating heart-related risks linked to the COVID-19 shots. They're exploring several emerging theories, including one centered on the spike protein made in response to vaccination, according to the Wall Street Journal. So again, what they say, today's conspiracy is 30 to 60 days away from being a legitimate possibility. Not trying to say that in every case, but there's a lot of people that were censored that turn out to be somewhat pretty damn accurate nowadays relative to what their statement being made, 3, 4, 5 months ago. The next thing is that Communist Party leader and China's President Xi Jinping is set to unveil a new doctrine that could let him rule for life. Only 2 men in the Communist Party's history have a historic resolution, waiting to see whether President Xi becomes the third. Well, if he's got the power to do it, and he set himself up in a strategic way to be able to do this, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but so be it, if you will, right? Is Florian Daguri, currently the world's top, and by the way, I'm not trying to say that as like, oh, well, that too bad for the Chinese people, but very tough. If you ask me strategically, it's a time of observation instead of just, let's go attack him because he's trying to take over his country even more so. It's tough, as in, okay, what would you have us do realistically, right? The next thing is that Florian Daguri, currently the world's top static breath hold free diver, has been diagnosed with myocarditis and pericarditis with the Pfizer vaccine. Excuse me, folks, I apologize for that. We'll see here. Again, he shared his experience on Instagram. We see other, NBA players. We see other football players, soccer players, you name it, right? Just explaining, like, okay, I got the shot X amount of days ago, and now I've come down with this. I have not had a previous case of it, no medical history of this or anything of the sort. Again, it's not saying that the vaccine did it, but, I mean, let's use common sense here, right? So, again, take that as you will. The next thing is that Poland had put territorial defense forces on alert as large numbers of migrants gather on the border with Belarus. Germany was the chant that the migrants at the Belarusian-Polish border were saying after they tore down a section of the border fence, and then shortly after, shots were fired at the Belarus-Polish border, and the origin and reason was unclear. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I should have maybe done a little bit of research with respects to the context and the situation occurring there. We know that there's been tension at the Belarus-Polish border for many, many days now. Putin's in there with respects to his intelligence surveillance. The European countries are obviously surveilling what's going on. Again, if there is something within context that the people want that they're not receiving with respects to, open borders or closed borders or, some type of trade or something like this, the people must be listened to, or else these complications are just going to be headaches and the pain in the sides. And I hate to say pain in the sides. I'd rather it be headaches directly on for the world leaders and elitists, but this is more of a thorn in their side, sadly, that will cause this. So again, I'm not saying that, these people in general should just kind of sit there and say, oh, well, let's see what happens. But if people are passionate enough, hey, they're willing to fight for what they believe in, and so be it. So the next thing is that a single dose of monoclonal antibody drug provides long-term protection against COVID-19, according to Regeneron. They claim that, again, this all of a sudden, see how monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, but then all of a sudden Regeneron, which is a big pharma company, says it. Maybe they got a patent on some of the monoclonal antibodies, something like this, and all of a sudden it's okay. Take that as you will. The next thing is that Department of Justice Attorney General Garland and FBI Director Wray plan to announce a, quote, significant law enforcement matter, end quote, later today. Okay, let's see what it is. It's as of right now, for me, it's 3 in the afternoon. I wanted to record this a bit later in the day to let some more news come out. Nothing seems to have happened since. So the next thing is that Tether, the unregulated central bank for crypto, has minted $3 billion US in the first week of November as Bitcoin rises. Hey, if this doesn't tell you what the future is or may not be, again, maybe a big psyop, or maybe in fact it is the future and not a scam, as President Trump says, and that others fundamentally agree or disagree with him on, for example. It'll be interesting to see the big bankers and all that, what they think of this, what the next, again, part of the fourth revolution, the fourth turning, what this is going to bring about. The next thing is that a Federal Reserve Board member, Randall Quarles, has resigned. This marks the fourth official to step down from the Federal Reserve after Biden took office. I would want to get more context as of what's going on internally, right? Again, people resign constantly all the time, regardless of which politician or which administration. But again, pertaining to the current events relative to what has happened since Biden has gotten in, this could in fact be tied to Biden and his administration, right? Whether it's the FDA people stepping down from the FDA, or the Federal Reserve Board not agreeing with what's happening here, right? Again, it's possible as well that Biden has to push that agenda even more strongly, because Hillary was supposed to be in there the last 4 years as part of the globalist agenda, if you want to call it, and because she wasn't, now he's got to double speed it up, and it's not him doing it. We know that the guy fell asleep at COP26 climate conference, for Christ's sake. But the next thing is that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot until a gun was pointed at him. One of his attackers just admitted in court. Again, I know it's a very touchy subject, but we got to call things like they are. So let's see how the rest of the court case plays out, and then I'll give my opinion on this and all that. The next thing is that Denmark, but I honestly don't like to that often, folks. I feel like we should be focusing on bigger things. I know that obviously this is not, people could say, Dave, well, you don't think that's a big issue, but you folks, I think most of you know what I mean. The next thing is that Denmark plans to reimpose some COVID restrictions after they ditched all rules 2 months ago, according to the Danish Prime Minister. The Danish Prime Minister cites, quote, the sharp rise in the number of infections, end quote, as the reason. 86% of the population over the age of 12 is fully vaccinated. Take that as you will. The next thing is that Pelosi's January 6th Select Committee subpoenas Michael Flynn, Jason Miller, Stephen Miller, Bill Stepien, and John Eastman. It's subpoena, tit for tat. It's another chess game. Bannon released that Epstein footage shortly after he was called in contempt of Congress. It's a chess game, guys. It's a chess game. I did want to say very quickly, pertaining to the sharp rise in the number of infections in Denmark there. If the people don't want it, I do believe the Danish Prime Minister, should drop those things right away. That's my opinion personally. But if the people are okay with it, then look, so be it. So be it. That's your where you live, respectfully, your country. So again, I understand that. The next thing is that Israeli air raids have hit Syria. 2 soldiers have been wounded, according to state media. Syria's military says that 2 soldiers wounded, according to state media. Syria's military says that Israeli air raids on central and western provinces wound 2 soldiers and cause material damage, the state media reports. We would need more context with respects to the intelligence angle, the military angle of things, and I say that not because, again, this is justified, no violence is, but we have to see more of a context as to why this is the case, what the goal is, what the agenda is, and all that stuff. If you want my honest opinion, folks, it's petty crap. But it's, again, the only people that suffer are the innocent ones, and it's true. The next thing is that Palestinian activists have been hacked by the Israeli firm NSO spyware, according to a report. The spyware from the Israeli surveillance firm was detected on the mobile phones of 6 Palestinian rights activists, according to a report. Again, This is a chess game. Life is a chess game, sadly, but this is the way it goes. Abu Dhabi has now issued a law on divorce inheritance for non-Muslims. The new rules governing divorce, inheritance, and child custody set to provide, quote, flexible, advanced judicial mechanism for non-Muslims, local media says, end quote. Sure. Again, presuming there's no bad faith and there's good intention, and the people are okay with this, I understand that. The next thing is that the U.S. raises Egypt's rights record as, quote, strategic dialogue, end quote, begins. Human rights and a multitude of regional issues will be discussed during the 2-day talks in the U.S., Antony Blinken says. Yeah, how come you don't do that to Saudi Arabia? Oh, that's right, the oil. You guys love them for the oil too much. Huh, funny, isn't it? The next thing is that gunmen have seized villages in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, near Uganda and Rwanda borders. Overnight, gunmen have seized the villages of Shansu and Runyoni, the last redoubts of the M23 group before their defeat many years ago. Again, the only people that suffer are the innocent ones. It's as simple as that, if you want my humble opinion. The next thing is that more than a dozen have been killed in a Niger gold mine collapse. At least 18 people killed and 7 others injured in southern Niger after an artisanal mine collapsed, the local mayor says. I gotta be honest with you folks, I can't help but think that some of these corporations create these mine collapses, if you want to call it. They kill their workers, and I'm not trying to spread conspiracies, but with how often world governments lie to us, we gotta speculate because they lie so much in some cases. Look, either way, it's sad that these people died. Me saying, that it might be the corporations that orchestrated such an event will not bring them back. Yes, granted, I understand that, and I apologize for those that may think, Dave, what are you saying here? But we got to consider these things. We really do. So the next thing is that the WHO and UNICEF launch a new polio vaccination campaign in Afghanistan. The program aims to address the 3.3 million children who have gone unvaccinated since 2018. Again, no, I'm not for that. I'm really not. But it's still gonna happen. Again, the thing is too, is technically speaking, it's a globalistic perspective versus a nationalistic one. Why would you to play devil's advocate against myself? Why would you, Dave, why would you insert yourself and say, no, I don't like this one? You also say too, hey, if it's their country, let them do what they decide. And you know what? I would say to anyone who says it to me, fair point. So again, the next thing is that Nicaragua's Ortega is set to win another term, after quote farce election, end quote. President Daniel Ortega is seeking a 4th consecutive term in a vote held after months-long crackdown on the opposition. This is what usually happens with such individuals, and again, presuming this is legitimate, and again, it's not even about there being propaganda against Mr. Ortega. We know what he's done. So take that as you will. The next thing is that Georgia's ex-president Saakashvili moved to prison hospital. Saakashvili, 53, transferred to prison hospital 5 weeks after he declared a hunger strike in jail, authorities say. Man, these hunger strikes, my God, they sound so, so terrible. And I could see why they do it. Like, Navalny too in Russia and what have you. Again, Saakashvili there's a lot of history there with respects to Russia, you name it. So who knows if it was Putin's people that had him put in jail, and in reality, again, relative to the surface level story and things like this, it's hard to say, right? The next thing is that there is a scramble for evidence after an attack in northwestern Myanmar, according to Al Jazeera. Soldiers' presence and internet shutdown hamper efforts to gather details of a military assault in the Chin state that destroyed dozens of homes. Yeah. Again, the only people that suffer are the innocent ones. Whether there's a coup, whether there's a structured, governmental body being assembled there at the moment, the only people that suffer are the innocent ones. I hate to have these news days where I can't really come up or sort of think of some type of efficient explanation or reasonable, solution, if you will, relative to what is being reported. So, and the final thing is that China appears to have built a full-scale mock-up of U.S. warships in a desert in the country's northwestern Yin-Yang region, satellite images show. One of the images, captured by U.S. space technology company Maxar, shows a structure shaped like a military aircraft placed on rail tracks. Excuse me, folks. I really apologize for this issue today with the audio and the video. If you notice, there's some random jumps or pauses. I promise to have this resolved by the following episode. Again, USNI News, a site specializing in the U.S. Navy, said the structure appeared to be targets built by the military. if they're targeting Americans, I mean, like, look, in terms of for target practice and things like this, this is nothing new per se. Again, it's obviously to say to the, Europeans, Westerners, look at what China's doing. But again, let's consider both sides of things. I'm not trying to defend China. We got to play it right down the middle in the best way that we can and try to take our opinion and our emotion out of it. With that being said, again, I'm sure the Americans have put up target practices in their deep underground military bases or their classified bases of certain adversaries of their own. So with that being said, folks, thank you so much for watching or listening. I apologize for these audio issues. I promise to resolve them very, very soon in the next coming days, and we'll catch all of you very, very shortly. Cheers.